Have you ever wondered where it all began? Not just our world, but everything. The story starts with a single book, Genesis, a name that means beginnings. Let's dive into this epic tale of creation, family, and faith that has shaped billions of lives. In the very beginning, there was nothing but darkness. Then a voice speaks, "Let there be light," and light appears. Over 6 days, the universe takes shape. The sky, the seas, the land, vibrant plants, and countless animals all come into being. On the 6th day, the grand finale, the creation of humanity. Adam and Eve are formed, placed in a beautiful garden called Eden, and given a special connection with their Creator. On the 7th day, creation is complete, and God rests, setting a pattern for all time. Life in Eden is perfect, but there is one rule. Do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A cunning serpent tempts Eve, who eats the forbidden fruit and shares it with Adam. Suddenly, their innocence is gone. They feel shame and hide. This act of disobedience changes everything. They are expelled from Eden and life becomes a struggle. This is what's known as the fall of humanity, the moment brokenness entered the world. The consequences ripple through the generations. Adam and Eve's sons, Cain and Abel, offer sacrifices. Abel's is accepted, but Cain's is not. Fueled by jealousy, Cain commits the world's first murder, killing his own brother. This tragic story highlights the growing darkness in the human heart. The family line continues, and we trace the lineage from Adam all the way to a man named Noah. By Noah's time, the world has become a chaotic and corrupt place. Seeing the widespread wickedness, God is heartbroken and decides to wash the world clean with a great flood. But he finds one righteous man, Noah. God instructs Noah to build a massive ark and to gather his family and pairs of every kind of animal. The rains come, and for 40 days and 40 nights, water covers the entire earth. Only those inside the ark survive. When the waters finally recede, Noah and his family step out onto a renewed earth. God makes a promise, a covenant, with Noah and all living things. He will never again destroy the world with a flood. As a sign of this promise, he places a rainbow in the clouds. Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, become the fathers of all the nations that would repopulate the earth. Humanity begins to multiply again. United by a single language, they settle in a land called Shinar. Filled with pride, they decide to build a city with a massive tower reaching to the heavens, the Tower of Babel. They wanted to make a name for themselves and avoid being scattered. But this was an act of defiance against God's command to fill the earth. So God confuses their language, and suddenly they can no longer understand each other. The project halts, and people scatter across the globe, forming different nations and cultures. From this point, we follow the lineage of Shem, leading us to a pivotal figure named Abram. In a world of many gods, God calls out to Abram, an ordinary man from the city of Ur. He gives him an extraordinary promise. "Leave your country and your people, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you." Abram, in an incredible act of faith, obeys. He, his wife Sarai, and his nephew Lot pack up and journey to the land of Canaan. As their wealth grows, their herdsmen begin to quarrel. To keep the peace, Abram graciously lets Lot choose the best land for himself. Lot picks the lush, well-watered plains of Jordan, near the wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Later, a war breaks out, and Lot is captured. Abram, a man of peace, becomes a warrior. He gathers 318 of his trained men, rescues Lot, and recovers all his possessions. On his way back, he is blessed by Melchizedek, the mysterious king and priest of Salem. Afterwards, God reaffirms his covenant with Abram, promising him descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, even though Abram and Sarai are old and childless. Years pass, and Sarai still has no child. She takes matters into her own hands and gives her Egyptian servant, Hagar, to Abram to have a child. Hagar conceives and gives birth to a son, Ishmael, but this was not God's plan. Later, God appears to Abram again. He establishes the covenant of circumcision as a physical sign of their agreement. He changes Abram's name to Abraham, meaning father of many nations, and Sarai's name to Sarah, meaning princess, and then comes the bombshell promise. Sarah herself will bear a son in her old age. God also reveals his plan to destroy the corrupt cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham, showing his compassionate heart, pleads with God, bargaining to spare the cities if even a few righteous people can be found. But not even 10 can be found. Angels are sent to rescue Lot and his family. They are warned not to look back, but Lot's wife disobeys and is turned into a pillar of salt. The cities are utterly destroyed in a storm of fire and sulfur. True to God's word, at the appointed time, Sarah gives birth to a son. They name him Isaac, which means laughter, because Sarah had laughed when she heard she would have a child at age 90. Isaac is the child of the promise, the one through whom the great nation would come. But Abraham's faith is about to face its ultimate test. God asks him to take his beloved son Isaac to a mountain and offer him as a sacrifice. Heartbroken but obedient, Abraham prepares to do the unthinkable. At the very last moment, an angel stops him, and a ram is provided for the sacrifice instead. Abraham proved his faith was absolute. Years later, Sarah dies and Abraham buys a cave, the Cave of Machpelah, as a family burial plot. It's the first piece of the promised land his family officially owns. Before he dies, Abraham ensures Isaac will not marry a Canaanite woman. He sends his most trusted servant back to his homeland to find a wife for Isaac. Guided by God, the servant finds Rebekah, a kind and beautiful young woman, who agrees to return with him and become Isaac's wife. Isaac and Rebekah have twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau, the firstborn, is a hairy, skillful hunter, his father's favorite. Jacob is a quieter man who stays by the tents, his mother's favorite. One day, Esau comes in from the field, starving. He rashly agrees to sell his birthright, his special inheritance as the firstborn, to Jacob for a simple bowl of stew. This single moment sets the stage for a lifetime of conflict. When Isaac is old and blind, he prepares to give Esau the special blessing of the firstborn. But Rebekah overhears and helps Jacob deceive his father. Dressed in Esau's clothes and with goat skins on his arms to feel hairy, Jacob tricks Isaac and receives the blessing meant for his brother. Esau is furious and plots to kill Jacob. To save his life, Jacob flees to his uncle Laban in Haran. On his journey, Jacob stops for the night and has a powerful dream of a stairway reaching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending on it. In the dream, God stands beside him and renews the covenant he made with Abraham and Isaac, promising to be with Jacob and bring him back to this land. Jacob names the place Bethel, meaning house of God. Jacob arrives in Haran and falls in love with Laban's younger daughter, Rachel. He agrees to work for Laban for 7 years to marry her. But on the wedding night, Laban tricks him, giving him his older daughter Leah instead. Jacob is then forced to work another 7 years for Rachel. Through Leah, Rachel, and their 2 servants, Jacob becomes the father of 12 sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, and Joseph, and 1 daughter Dinah. These 12 sons will become the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. After 20 years, Jacob decides to return home. He flees from the deceptive Laban, who pursues him. They eventually make a tense peace. As Jacob nears his homeland, he prepares to meet the brother he wronged so long ago. The night before the reunion, a mysterious man, often interpreted as an angel or God himself, wrestles with Jacob until daybreak. Jacob refuses to let go until he receives a blessing. The man changes Jacob's name to Israel, meaning he who struggles with God, and blesses him. The next day, in a moving scene of forgiveness, Jacob and Esau reconcile. The family settles back in Canaan, but tragedy strikes. Jacob's daughter, Dinah, is assaulted, and her brothers Simeon and Levi take a brutal, deceptive revenge, leading to more conflict. Jacob's family continues its journey. Rachel, his beloved wife, dies while giving birth to his 12th son, Benjamin. Finally, Jacob is reunited with his father, Isaac, who dies at a ripe old age and is buried by his 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. Now the story shifts to Jacob's favorite son, Joseph. Joseph is given a beautiful, colorful coat by his father, which makes his 10 older brothers burn with jealousy. To make matters worse, Joseph has dreams of his family bowing down to him. One day, his brothers' hatred boils over. They throw him into a pit and sell him as a slave to traders heading to Egypt. They dip his coat in animal blood and present it to Jacob, who believes his favorite son is dead. In Egypt, Joseph's fortunes seem to turn. He is bought by Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, and his integrity and skill cause him to rise and manage Potiphar's entire household. But his success is short-lived. When he rejects the advances of Potiphar's wife, she falsely accuses him, and he is thrown into prison. Even in prison, God is with Joseph. He gains the favor of the jailer and is put in charge of the other prisoners. There, he interprets the dreams of two of Pharaoh's former servants, the cupbearer and the baker. His interpretations prove true. The baker is executed and the cupbearer is restored to his position. Joseph asks the cupbearer to remember him, but he is forgotten. 2 years later, Pharaoh himself is troubled by two dreams, one of 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 thin cows, and another of 7 healthy heads of grain being devoured by 7 thin heads. None of his magicians can interpret them. Finally, the cupbearer remembers Joseph. Joseph is brought from prison and, giving all credit to God, explains the dreams. They predict 7 years of great abundance, followed by 7 years of devastating famine. Impressed by his wisdom, Pharaoh appoints Joseph as prime minister of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself, to oversee the storage of grain during the good years. When the famine hits, it is severe, and it extends to Canaan, where Jacob and his family live. Hearing there is grain in Egypt, Jacob sends 10 of his sons to buy food, keeping his youngest, Benjamin, at home. The brothers travel to Egypt and bow before Joseph, fulfilling his childhood dream, though they don't recognize him. Joseph recognizes them immediately and decides to test them to see if their hearts have changed. He accuses them of being spies, puts them in jail, and then demands they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to prove their story. After much convincing, Jacob reluctantly lets Benjamin go. When the brothers return to Egypt with Benjamin, Joseph welcomes them with a feast. But he has one final test. He secretly has his own silver cup placed in Benjamin's sack of grain. As they are leaving, his soldiers discover the cup and accuse Benjamin of theft. Joseph declares that Benjamin must stay behind as his slave. But this time, the brothers are different. Judah steps forward and offers to take Benjamin's place, not wanting to bring such grief upon their father. Seeing their genuine change of heart, Joseph can no longer contain himself. He breaks down in tears and reveals his identity. I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? He forgives his brothers completely, explaining that what they meant for evil, God used for good, to save many lives. He urges them to bring their entire family, including his father Jacob, to Egypt to live in the fertile land of Goshen, where he can provide for them during the remaining years of famine. So Jacob, now an old man, travels with his entire clan, 70 people in all, to Egypt. The reunion between Jacob and his long-lost son Joseph is one of the most emotional moments in the entire book. The family settles in Goshen and prospers. As the famine continues, Joseph's wise management results in all the land of Egypt, except that of the priests, becoming Pharaoh's property. As Jacob's life draws to a close, he calls for Joseph and his 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. In a significant act, Jacob adopts them as his own and, while blessing them, deliberately crosses his hands, placing his right hand on the head of Ephraim, the younger son, giving him the greater blessing. Then, Jacob gathers all 12 of his sons and gives each a prophetic blessing, foretelling the future of their descendants, the tribes of Israel. After Jacob dies, Joseph honors his father's last wish. He has his body embalmed and leads a great procession back to Canaan to bury him in the cave of Machpelah, with Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, and Leah. The book of Genesis concludes with the death of Joseph. He too makes his brothers promise that when God eventually leads them out of Egypt, they will carry his bones with them back to the promised land, and so